السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So let's finish this discussion about change. So the first night I talked about the verse in the Quran about change and how most of the commentators of the Quran understood that verse in the negative, meaning that Allah Ta'ala does not change or take away a blessing of a community until the community goes wrong, etc. And then last night we spoke about the story of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu and the loving of the Prophet, that story that we all know. So today I want to talk just some final thoughts about change, which is to ask the question, are we ready for the change that we seek? It's easy to complain about our condition. It's easy to say we want to change. It's easy to desire more things or a better life or this or that. But rarely do we ask ourselves if we are actually ready for that thing that we want, if we're ready for the change. Now, in Islamic ethics, the ulama, they discuss the two modes that we live in, al-qabd and al-bast. Sometimes we are in a state of expansion, and sometimes we are in a state of restriction. And that these states or these modes, they go back to the different manifestation of Allah Ta'ala's traits upon us. I mean, if you're following the class on Fridays, the Risala Khushariyya, we're going to get into this later in the book. Not now, after Ramadan. This is like a sneak peek, about what we talk about. But the ulama say, well, how do you deal with this? Now, funny, it's actually easier to deal when you are restricted. When things are bad and things are difficult, it's actually easier. Because you're going to turn, all of us, we're going to turn to Allah. All of us are going to say, astaghfirullah. All of us are going to pray more, give more, do more, be patient. Hopefully we'll be patient. That's easy. So it's easy to complain when things are difficult, and it's easy to have the right adab, the right etiquette when things are difficult. But what's very, very difficult is to have the right dispensation, the right demeanor when things are good. When Allah Ta'ala gives you what you seek. That's where most of us fail. When we are actually given that state of expansion, that qabd, when we're actually given an advance, given more, given something that we seek, most of us at that moment, that's when we flounder and we don't realize it, we self-sabotage and we go back to where we started from, and then we live in the cycle back and forth for the majority of our life. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Wallahi, I by Allah, I am not scared that you will commit shirk after me. But I am fearful from you the dunya. فَتَنَافِسُوهَا كَمَا تَنَافَسَوْهَا. You will seek the dunya, strive for the dunya, fight for the dunya like the people before you, and it will destroy you the way it destroyed the people before you. So the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't say, I'm worried that you're going to have difficult times. He didn't say, I'm worried that you're going to have hard times. He didn't say, I'm worried that things might be tight at times. But rather, he said, I am worried, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am worried that things will be good for you. And they will really open up, so you will just dive into that and forget the truth or forget the principles. So part of the process of change is that when we talked about in the beginning that it's an internal disposition, and last night we said you really got to sacrifice your priorities and you have to replace them with something higher. The reason is that when you get that change that you desire, or you begin to have that change, you want to be ready for that discomfort and that new life that will come. And then you want to be able to live in that new mode. So the change is not just that one little thing that you think you need, that one missing piece that you need, that one, one more mark that you need, or that one more item that you need to procure, or that one more business opportunity. That's really not the change. The real change is what's going to happen on the inside of you so that it lasts. So you don't squander the opportunity, you don't lose the opportunity, and that you build on that. Now to do that, other than knowing that this is what's happening, because oftentimes, wallahi, we are our worst enemy. Ourselves are our worst own enemy. And if anything in Ramadan hopefully we gain a clarity of how that's the case. And we've spoken about that earlier in the month. But other than knowing this, what you need is a new set of routines and habits. to be able to plug in that change that you want. Now, in Islam, the things that we have to do that are obligated for us, we call these issues of taklif, meaning that Allah Ta'ala has given us moral obligation to do the prayer and the fasting and these things. It's called taklif. And if you are of sound mind and able body, you are mukallaf. You have been somebody that has been given this obligation. Now the word itself, taklif, it comes from the word of kulfa, that there is some discomfort. You have to get up and make wudu and pray. It's just easier just to stay sitting down. So there is some discomfort in having to do the obligations. And then the usulis, they say if there is some discomfort, that is one of the definitions that this is an issue of taklif. Giving the zakah, same thing. It'd be easier not to give the money, just to keep the money. To fast, it would be easier not to fast and just be like, oh, I'm going to feel good this month and that's my fast. No, you got to fast. So there's some discomfort. And Allah through that is teaching us is that if you really want to change, you are going to have to go through discomfort. The process of change is not going to be a process of comfort and luxury and joy. But you are going to have to hustle. And you are going to have to struggle. And you're going to have to struggle and keep on struggling to get that thing that you want, to make that change and to make it last. And in order for that to last and for us to grow with the change, we have to have a different set of habits, a different set of routines that are connected to that greater principle of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And of course, the greatest thing that we can do, the greatest set of routine that we can engage in is the things that Allah Ta'ala has given us, the prayer and the fasting and this and that. But to add to that, a regimen of devotional works throughout the day and night, some adhkar, some dhikr, some invocation that we make. This is what will carry us. So when that change happens and when we start to feel that change, we're not going to lose the opportunity. We're going to live up to that new expectation. Now the thing about wealth, I give you the example of wealth because the Prophet ﷺ gave it and also we can understand it. Wealth, they say, only emphasizes what somebody already has. If you see the uber rich, they do uber stupid things, right? They do silly things, they say silly things. And people, we think it's because they are wealthy. It's not. We forget that there are two things. They got their wealth however they got their wealth, but there is something inside them that they did not fix. That all that wealth did is allow them to amplify that which was already inside them. If you have a generous person and this generous person becomes wealthy, that wealth will augment their generosity. If you have a person that cares about the past and cares about history and things like that, their wealth will make them, procure antiques or get involved in museums or find old manuscripts. It would augment what's already inside them. So that's why I'm saying when you have this expansion that you want, and usually the expansion that we seek is something worldly. That's why I give us this example, but not always. We need to be also ready for it. Likewise, people that want otherworldly, akhirah expansion. Many times people come to me and they say, oh, if I say something that they liked or inspired them or whatever, they come and say, oh, I want to study Islam and I want to study Sharia. Because obviously maybe for good reasons. But then I sense in that person, you're not ready for the struggle. You're not ready for what we had to go through to learn. Wallahi, there were many times, many times, I would have to spend hours, plural hours, waiting in the lobby of an office just to ask my teachers one question in fiqh or one question of usul al-fiqh. And this person's, I want to go, next month and I want to go and become Mufti Saab and come back. It doesn't work like that. You got to struggle. You have to work really hard. And if you're lucky and if you have a good intention, Allah Ta'ala opens for you. But if you start off that way, and then Allah Ta'ala gives it to you, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, this is a hadith that's narrated in Hakim, it's very, very scary. He said, the worst thing that I am fearful for you is somebody who has been given the Qur'an. How can somebody who has been given the Qur'an be the worst person for the community? And they become a leader of the community? The Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith, until they change the Qur'an and the Qur'an is taken out from them. So just because Allah Ta'ala gives you that which you think you want, even if it's something that is quote unquote deen related, you have to be ready for that change. How many people have studied Islam and learned the Qur'an and used the Qur'an to harm Muslims? Use the Qur'an to lead Muslims astray. use the Quran to sow division in the community. Well, what good is the Quran that they were given if that's the result of it? So just because you've been bestowed with the gift that you think you want, you have to be ready for that change. You have to be ready for that increase that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Which is why the expansion is the time where the believer is most fearful. The believer is not fearful when things are difficult, because they know that life is difficult, they can be patient. But when they get something extra, that's when they are fearful. Is this a test? Did I do something wrong? I don't want to squander it. I don't want to make a mistake. Did I earn this from a haram way? They go through all of this, these questions in themselves to make sure that what they have been given, they can use it for the right way. So when we talk about change, and I hope all of us change in this month, and that this is a month of not just change, but transformation, inshallah, for all of us. Let us also remember, other than sacrificing the priorities that we have, which we talked about last night, we need to be ready for the change and the challenges that come with that change, so that we don't lose the opportunity, inshallah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these last blessed nights, may He accept our dua, our fasting, our prayer, inshallah. Allah ta'ala, we ask Him for His mercy upon our children and our parents, our center, our institutions. And I know there are many families that are struggling. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help the families that are struggling. Well, it was a very beautiful iftar tonight to see and interact with everyone. Alhamdulillah, this is a tremendous blessing that we have. We ask Allah ta'ala for this blessing to last and to increase and to continue and to make us worthy of this blessing. And as we expand, may we be elevated and expand with that expansion, inshaAllah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.